There we go. And welcome everybody. Good evening and thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday, this 4th of July Eve. For our Canadian friends, happy belated Canada Day. And for our US friends, happy early 4th of July. Thank you so very much for joining Cubbie and I. John, this is the first Monday of the month. So that means John is off doing something else that he has to take care of, but we are here tonight to hang out with you. So I'm looking forward to some things being put in the chat. So we're going to be talking tonight. About multiple events. Like, how do you set yourself up? What are some of the thought processes that go behind that? We'll get into all that stuff. But the last time that I got a chance to talk with Cubbie, he was getting ready to go international. Like international hit. Like that's all there was to it. He's going on tour. He was taking his show on the road. Now he was doing something. Look, I mean, for those that didn't know, where did you go? What did you get into since we saw you last?
Yeah, so I took off to London to watch the Cubs versus Cardinals game. Got to go to the Saturday afternoon game, the one that the Cubs won, so that was fantastic. But took a flight over there.
It was a good thing that they won that one, or would it have made the trip a little disappointing?
Yeah, it was, because those Cardinals fans sitting next to me, and there was a lot of Cubs fans and Cardinals fans just like all sitting all around each other, and yeah, they were really, really disappointed. But it was we're not, neither one of us are having a great season, so there's not a lot to chat about. So
how did this come about that you? I mean, I know you're a huge Cubs fan. Don't get me wrong, but there are super fans that won't travel internationally for a game. So what was the process that kind of led you to go, I'm going to go to that game and yeah.
Probably just the experience to, go watch the Cubs play in London. The first time they did, second time they'd been overseas. The first time they had it was Red Sox and Yankees. And then COVID happened. This is the second game. So it's just being part of an experience over there. And take a vacation and have fun.
Did you notice, like you mentioned, the Cards fans that were around you, were they native Europeans, will they say, or were they US that flew over like you?
They were all US. There's only there's a guy and two of his sons sitting behind us that were UK, and all the rest of everyone else was US around where I was.
I wonder if that's what they planned. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to travel for this game? Or are we going to try and build up a local piece? But I guess, either way, if they got some butts in the seats, it's a good sign for them.
A lot of the locals didn't know what was going on. Some of them at all had no idea. And then there was some complaining that the ticket prices were too high. If they were like the same as a cricket price or something, they might have went to experience it. But the baseball MLB made the ticket prices too high for locals.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind sharing out? Do you remember hearing what some of those prices? I mean, obviously different parts of the park are different, but like, what were some of those prices that you're hearing for tickets?
I don't know. Mine was all part of a package. So,
okay.
But I know they dropped them significantly locally.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see either how much they were.
Okay. I was just kind of curious of, like what are we used to, right? Versus what they might be used to, and what would be sticker shock for us, or sticker shock for them might be, yeah, that's a normal baseball game. Like, that's a normal professional level baseball game. We'll put it that way, because you go to some parks and you can buy tickets for $5, but those are not the ones that you typically go to often. So,
right.
By the way, if you're watching us somewhere other than YouTube, I will tell you right now, I am not going to see your comments tonight. That I don't have access to it. John doesn't trust me with the good toys. I only trust me with enough to make myself a little bit dangerous. So if you've got anything that you want to weigh in tonight, anything that you want to, feedback on stuff that we're saying, head yourself over to youtube.com and make sure that you look for the Disc Jockey News page, and you'll see our piece. That's where you want to put your stuff. Like Scott, he said hi to us. Hey, Scott. Hopefully you're not sweating to death down in Florida, but thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and the others that are watching as well. We definitely appreciate that. So let's shift gears a little bit. All right, we talked baseball, and that's all well and good, but as your Cubbies are not doing well, neither are my Pirates. I got excited in the beginning of the year, and then reality set back in, and I should have known. But anyway, so let's talk about what can often happen this time of year. And if you're not in the position for currently having multiple events happening, I would be willing to bet that the instances of you getting asked goes up come fall, for other people. So these are the ideas that I think as we're talking tonight, tuck those pieces away, or figure out a way to maybe market yourself in such a way that you get more if you're liking what you're hearing tonight, or if you're like, no way am I ever going to touch that. So, I got a question. So on a typical weekend for you, or let me scratch that. Let me ask you a different way. How often do you do at least 2 events in a weekend? And I'm gonna let's go to the wedding aspect a little bit more. How often do you do 2 weddings in a weekend?
Depending on the season, like you said, early in the season, May, June, probably 2 weekends out of the month. Back to
Okay.
back. Fall, September, October, it's could be 4 out of 4. It's usually every Friday, Saturday.
Okay. How often throughout the year do you see 3 in a weekend?
I don't do those. Not me
Okay.
personally.
Okay. And that, so by choice.
Yes.
Okay. And that was actually going to be one of the questions that I have is, what are some of the things that you consider when that initial consult comes in about double and triple potential issues? So we'll scratch the triple aspect off the board right away. What are some things that you consider when that comes in for a potential double?
The location of the 2 venues.
Okay.
Where am I at on Friday versus where I am on Saturdays? How far is it? Is it a double, ceremony? Is it reception only? Is it both ceremony and reception? I guess neither of it really matters. We still do them even if they are both. So those are some of the things.
So with the Friday Saturday aspect, like you mentioned distance first, so we'll kind of go. We didn't say distance; we said venues, but I'm going to assume that was the distance piece. So, what is kind of the greatest distance you'll consider for a Friday Saturday distance apart?
Probably about an hour.
Okay, hour from home base. Then I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, so an
Okay.
hour. So like Friday night, if I'm an hour from home, then I got to drive an extra hour back. Then I finally fall asleep. So then what time am I getting up to go to the next one, and how far it is, out, and again, what time you have to be there. But again, you book so far out, you don't know. You're just basically booking it, and then then you work in the days and you find out the times later, as always.
Yeah. And time, obviously, that, like you just mentioned, is going to be a huge aspect to it. But I think most of us can kind of pinpoint when you're going to be showing up for a ceremony, when you're going to be showing up for a reception, just because 9 times out of 10, it's within this 2 to 3 hour window for your start, right? It's not, you're not the old days of having a wedding at 11 or 12 and having a potential other one at 5 or 6 at the same venue. Maybe not you, but like another wedding in that same venue. A lot of those days, I think, have gone by the wayside. Thank goodness. So so besides distance, all right, so you mentioned ceremony and reception, if they're doing those types of things, do you find that if you are doing ceremony and reception on Friday, that you're a little hesitant to take one that is a ceremony reception on Saturday? Or is there other pieces of that kind of weigh into that, yes or no?
No, I don't think so. Not, like I said, they just like, oh yes, it's ceremony and reception. I'm like, oh, I guess that we always just do them. So
Okay. Yeah, and I think for those of you that are contemplating this and kind of going, okay, well, what could I pull off and how could I pull this off? Doing that Friday and Saturday, if you're like, well, if they want both, like ceremony and reception at both days, I'm not going to take one of them. I think what you're finding is so many of your venues, you're doing both. Like if you just look at it, they are having both there. So to say you're not going to do something that has both because it has both, you could potentially run into a hiccup for yourself, I think. So let's kind of go back to, or go to a kind of another direction here. I know for me personally, because of the day job, pretty much Fridays, I had to be extremely selective. So you talked about ceremony and reception. Because of the day job, if they contact me for a Friday wedding and it's a ceremony, unless it's right down the street from my house, or unless it's a venue that I have such an awesome relationship with that I can set up the night before, I usually tell them, I'm sorry, like I can't do it. I can't make it there in time. And that's kind of a frustrating deterrent, but in the same respect, I don't get asked for enough Friday weddings. Like our area, if it's not a Saturday, I was telling Cubbie before he came on air, if it's not a Saturday, it just usually doesn't happen in this area. It's very rare that's the case. Now you drive an hour and a half, you go over towards Mikey Mike's area, over Scranton, Wilkes-Barre area, like, yeah, then they're doing Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sundays, sometimes Thursdays, but not so much here. We just, they don't like us on Fridays, I guess. I don't know. But is there, so when you're setting things up and booking them, kind of another thing to consider, I would imagine, would be the packages or the other things that you're bringing, right? Does that start to kind of either encourage you more or discourage you, right? So I mean, like if they're going to throw out a whole thing in the kitchen sink at you, does that make you more willing to go, well, I got more money on the table, I'm going for it? Or does that go, crap, that's even more work I've got to do before I turn around and do another wedding? Like, where does that
Yeah.
lie for you?
Probably crap. There's a lot more. With my photo booth, I gotta watch my Fridays because my photo booth operators are generally, college kids and working moms or just friends. So Friday night photo booths are tough for me, getting operators for it. As like I said, multi out, but we have a couple that might be able to do it, but we won't go all out, meaning all five. Yeah, I would dread to do a big one on a Friday and have to do a Saturday one, but all my packages basically the same. I don't really have like a huge, massive one and a non smaller one. So I think they'd all be the same.
And sometimes, for those of you that do have a lot of bells and whistles, right? Whether it's dancing on the clouds, the sparks machines, the photo booth, uplighting, totems, moving heads, right? Like all of the things that you can bring into it, the more you have, the more you then have to break down, get home, potentially put away before you can then maybe crash, try and get some sleep, and then get up the next morning and start the next thing all over again. So yeah. So Cubbie, now you typically are with the exception of like a photo booth operator, you're typically one-man show, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you have these doubles, and these are happening, especially in the fall where 4 out of 4 weekends, it's a double. Does your mind start thinking about, okay, who's the assistant? Who can I hire for an assistant to help me get through some of this? Like, does that factor into your thought process at all? Not whether you take it or not, but like, do you start wishing you had something like that?
Yes, and about the third weekend in, you're right. First weekend, you're okay. You can plug through. Second weekend, not too bad. Third weekend, you're starting to look for who's open on Friday night that can maybe, like you said, be your assistant. What you want the DJs that's not booked? I'm like, hey, let's go do some training. And you really just call it training, and but really he's just an assistant. But it's a good time to, talk about what how his sessions season has been or whatever. So, but yeah, about third, fourth weekend, start looking for some assistants who are not, not booked within your company on a Friday night, to go out with you.
And that can be kind of tough. I can think back to a couple of the different weekends when I was doing two. And I'm again, just like Cubbie, I'm a one-man show, and I'm thinking about, how do I get through it? Like, for the most part, it's fine, but like by the end, I'm just beat. And Sunday, I'm a bumping along. Like I've put everything I can into my shows. And so when I had those two, come Sunday, I'm a bumping along. And so I couldn't imagine doing that weekend after weekend after weekend. For those of you that do, and I'll go even a step further. Those of you that do, and this is not full time for you, right? You do that and
Oh,
you still have your Monday to Friday. How you do it, I have no idea.
yeah.
Those of you that have that, that this is your full time thing, I can get it to a degree because you can kind of maybe work your, work schedule through the week so that you have some energy build up. You've not, exhausted yourself throughout the week, but I just don't understand. So, and yeah, Scott even mentioned, like, when he had what, it was a car show, then a wedding, both on Saturday, and then turned around and did another wedding on Sunday. And it was during the time that he was doing a 40-hour work week at a full-time job. So,
Wow.
whew. Scott, back in our younger days, right?
Yeah.
back when we were a young man and could do that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's definitely something that, to consider when you're thinking about, are you going to go forward with this? That energy that you're going to be able to have to put into it, what's it worth to you, right? If you could hire a friend of yours, if nothing, just, hey, I need some grunt labor for the night, right? Show up at the end, show up in the beginning to help me set up, show up at the end to help me tear down, and just wear polos and some slacks, and let's get this taken care of, so that you have some energy left. Is that worth it to you, so that on Sunday you're not a bump on a log, or something along those lines? So now, preparation. When you are getting ready for this, I kind of have a couple different ideas. I have a physical, mental, and not a spiritual, but like like another direction to go with that. So, are there physical things that you do in the week leading up to a double weekend?
Um, I'll probably load my car earlier, like early in the day, so I'm not, so rushed to do it, just so that it's already loaded and I can just walk out the door and drive off. So, I do my load out early, or a lot earlier in the day, just so I can putz with it, not rush.
And that's gonna be key to that energy piece too, right? Just like, if you can take your time, you're not rushing for it, you can do it. But is there anything, and I did say physical and you went gear, but I was thinking more like for Cubbie, like for you, is there anything that you're doing throughout the week going like, listen, this weekend, I know it's gonna be a double weekend, it's September, but it's, a hot time in September. Like, is there anything that you're doing to prepare? And if not, I'm going to scold you, and I'm going to tell you some things you should do.
Nah, Sunday, Mondays are my day, are my Saturday, Sundays, or whatever. So yes, Sunday, Mondays, I don't Sundays for sure. I do not touch anything. Just stay with my family, and do whatever we want. But Monday, then I get back to, just answering emails, but nothing real super detailed, nothing, no crazy events or anything.
Keeping it low key is going to be key. So those of you that get into this, double or triple type of situation, a couple of things that I'm going to encourage you to do is, one, start preparing ahead of time. And what I mean by that is prepare your body for the fact that you are going to be punishing it, really, for 2 days straight. Between the setup and tear down and the performance that you have, there's a lot of pieces that can go into that, being on time. that if you haven't prepared your body to go into that, could struggle. So one thing I highly recommend is make sure you're hydrating, right? If you're talking, and real easy way to pick this up would be to take a microphone and just kind of record yourself talking and figure out if your lips are kind of doing a little smacking sound, right? That's going to be key, that you have not been drinking enough. And tonight, I will tell you right now, I have not been drinking enough. I went to my goddaughter graduated high school this weekend, and we were traveling to spend time with her and celebrate all that fun time. So I did not. So like I've already gone through this like whole thing just tonight sitting here pretty much. So make sure you're drinking, make sure you're hydrating, because that's going to be key, especially if you're hot. And even if you're not, you're going to be expending energy. But in addition to that, try and do your best to be proactive in the things that you're eating. And I don't want to turn this into a health kick type of episode, but I do want to encourage you to try and be, a little bit more conscious of that, because there are good foods that are going to give you energy, and there are bad foods that are going to give you energy for like 5 seconds, right? The stuff that's going to give that long-term energy is the stuff that you're going to want to focus on, and start focusing on early. Get your body used to having that type of piece. And if you know that in September you're going to have a bunch of doubles in a row and it's July, it might be time to start thinking about a workout program. And that workout program might be something like Bill Herman does, where he walks. Like, I love the fact that Bill's doing this, and I don't understand how he does, because he does it whether it's snowing, whether it's raining, whether it's sun is shining and it's warm. It doesn't matter. He's out there walking it. But it's been a great thing for him. And I think that would be also one of the things that would be great for all of you. So I know for me personally, I'm doing a program. I've been liking it. Wasn't really noticing it. Started a new version of the same program. And suddenly it's like, I can get up in the morning and I can work out, which 2 months ago, I would have been like, alarm clock, shut up. Just kind of having those different pieces. So having a chance to be able to do that is going to be good. Hydrating yourself and preparing your body to go through those motions and be able to come out on the other side well is going to be key. All right. Let me come down off my soapbox now. All right. So with that being said, so Cubbie, you mentioned you do your load in, and you use basically the same setup. You talked about keeping things kind of, you don't have some outlandish packages and stuff like that. So once you load Friday, or let me phrase it, do you load for both Friday and Saturday together, or do you load Friday, come home from Friday, unload, or Saturday morning unload, and then load any new things that might need to be in there? Or is it one load and you're done?
One load and I'm done. Both Friday and Saturday.
Okay. If you are doing different setups, and this is talking to YouTube land here. If you're doing different setups, one of the things that is going to become extra key for you is going to be your organization. It's going to come down to checklists. It's going to come down to dry erase sheets. One of the things that I started doing, I don't have a lot of toys, right? I don't have, I call them toys, but I don't have a lot of, odds and ends types of gear to take out, but I have enough different pieces that I could show up to the gig with the wrong thing and kind of find myself stuck. Could I make it through the event? Sure, but I wouldn't want to do that, right? So I have a checklist that I just typed up in Word, printed it out, and then stuck it into a sheet protector. And now I have a dry erase sheet. And when it gets worn out, I take it out, put it in a new sheet protector, and I've got the same thing. And I can check mark off on it and know when I have it. If you're doing a lot of doubles, have a Friday sheet and have a Saturday sheet. And make sure that you've got the things that you need to get, because the more you do these, and Cubbie, please chime in on this, the more you do these, I'm going to assume there are going to be times where, and I'll just use uplighting because that tends to be something that some people get confused. you'll think you have uploading for Friday and it's really for Saturday, and you load it, or you don't bring it because you mixed up the night that it was supposed to be on. Do you find yourself just kind of going, which end is up?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some weeks, like I said, that's why you gotta have your checklist. As you shared, you shared with, you gotta make sure that that you're carrying with you Friday and Saturday. And does it make sense to load it both, your Saturday stuff in? If you have a few extra gear, if it loads your car so perfectly, just leave it in there for so just don't carry it in. I've done that a
Yeah,
few times.
if you live in a safe location and you can leave everything loaded, that's going to save you some time and energy, especially on Saturday. So I mean, we keep talking Friday and Saturday. Let's assume Saturday, Sunday, right?
Sure,
Back
either
to back
right.
days, whatever it is. It's going to save you some time on that second day. So, what are some things you do? No, we use, both you and I, we use DJ Event Planner, and that I think is key. Both of us can't speak highly enough about it. I know there's other programs out there, don't get me wrong, but we can't speak highly enough about the program that we use because it keeps a lot of things straight. But going into the event, how do you print off your paperwork and keep it in two separate locations? Do you refuse to look at Saturday's stuff on Thursday? Like how do you determine, like, how do you keep that straight?
I have a clipboard. I'm a clipboard guy. I have
Okay.
so I have a clipboard after I meet with my clients. It goes in there and it's all by date, so first, second, third, all the way down. So if it's a double weekend, you just pull off the dates, both, they're all stapled, the two are stapled together. And then they move to the active clipboard for the events that are active that weekend. And the other ones stay at home, so you have any chance of losing them. And then you confirm all your details, and then once you confirm details on Sunday, I start printing everything out and making my playlist for both weddings, putting all my different songs, like First Dance, Paladano song in different crates with the last name of the couple. So it's all right there and ready to go. And one's ceremony and one's reception. And then you do the other laptop, your backup laptop, you gotta do, so yeah. So you just load up all your music and get ready to go on Monday. But you gotta do it early in the week, because if something happens later in the week, then you can kind of coast. Tuesday, Wednesday, review your notes, remember the names, practice.
And that's gonna be key, is definitely gonna be the practicing. But you mentioned the software and putting it with the couple's last name and getting that all set. I'm gonna go one step further for some of you that are, especially if you're starting out. Like if you've done this a bunch, maybe they wouldn't even think twice about having this issue. But when you're setting up your crates, you're setting up your folders, however you end up doing it, I would put the couple's last name, and then after it, in parentheses, I'd put Friday, or I'd put Saturday. I wouldn't put the date. Like, I mean, you could put the date if you wanted to, right? Like that would be an extra piece that you could add to that. But I think just having that thing that says Friday and Saturday, so that you don't accidentally grab the wrong couple, especially in the moment. My biggest fear, and you kind of hit on this, and it's something, is practicing the names. How often, now you catch yourself, I'm sure, so this doesn't happen, but how often do you, because of practicing throughout the week, do you want to use the wrong names? Does that factor with you? Does that run into where you're like, no, it's not Bobby. It's like, you don't say it, obviously, right?
Right.
You're professional. You've done this enough. You don't say it, but like that gut instinct for 5 seconds is like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna say the wrong
yeah.
name.
It's probably just an instant, but it feels like 5 seconds. And then you're like, you have to look, it's like, I think we know one time we talked about always having note cards in front of our thing, and I still do. Having just the first names right there at the front of my laptop or
So,
on my deck.
and I know people that take masking tape write the couple's name on it, and either stick it on the laptop or stick it on the laptop and like you know, if they're using something with a shelf, they put it on the front of the shelf. Pretty much anything that they could
Yeah.
find, so that they make sure they're doing that correctly. That, I'll be honest, when I went to my rolling booth and put the TV with the monogram, like, one of the things that I took from Low Stacks up in Michigan was the screen on your side, so you could see what was on the thing. And I was like, oh, you know, I don't think I need that. Like, you know, I use virtual and it's got the video, and I can look up and I can see the video. Like, I don't need to worry about that. And then I realized that I put their names on that picture that's on my booth. So there's my sticker, right there. There's my masking tape in a monogram form or whatever on the TV, and it's right in that screen in front of me. Like, there's no missing that. And there are so many times where, even not doing doubles, like, just in the split second of the moment, and I'm getting into my thing and I'm doing everything and I feel comfortable, and all of a sudden I go to say the couple's name and my mind just goes, and I go, I know these people. I've talked to these people a lot. I would consider them good acquaintances, if not close to friends at this point. Like, I should know their name, and my brain just wants to go. So having that cheat sheet, whether it's the screen, whether it's this masking tape, whether it's stickers or whatever, I think is going to be key. And make sure just make sure you change out all the stickers. Like, if you
Yeah.
put multiple around, make sure you change them all, and don't go on Saturday suddenly, like, you're getting ready and you're like, oh, I missed one. And that would be good. That would be good. But all right. So what are some other tips, you know, for someone who's starting to do doubles or triples, right? What are some other tips that you have to kind of get them ready for the night? Whether it's months in advance, whether it's the day of. You know, what are some things that you like, if I was one of your guys and I had never done a double before, and we're going into the training process. I've done a bunch of singles for you, so you know I know my stuff, but I've not done a double. What are you telling me?
I just making sure that his notes and that his crates are perfect with the songs. Make sure he has the songs in the order they're supposed to be, and then his notes are, you know, are ready to go for each day, and, you know, focus on that day. And, you know, read through both of them all the time, and then, you know, on the day of your wedding in the morning, just read through them extensively. Focus.
So much of what we do is not that 4 hours or 5 hours of performance. Who would have thought that? No, I mean, he's spot on with that. Like, you know, taking some extra time, day of, right, to just kind of get yourself in the frame of mind. This is my couple today, and this can go for your single out too, right? This is not, you know, does not have to be the double. That, you know, the idea of doing it the morning of is to kind of reset from what was the night before. But it would, you know, morning of, just taking some time to go, okay, this is my couple. You know, maybe asking them, maybe one of the things that you also ask them to fill out in your planner. Like, I know personally in my planner, I have questions about, like, when did you graduate high school? Who are some of the people that are going to be there that are going to be important to you? You know, do you have any pets? Does that kind of stuff usually make its way into anything that night? No, but it kind of reminds me of who they are and where they're coming from. And especially that when I talk about, like, when did you graduate high school, that helps me with my programming and my music piece of that. But just those other pieces, like, what are the things that you're interested in? Sometimes you get a whole direction that you never thought about. But it also kind of puts you in that right frame of mind of, this is my couple. This is not just a name, which could easily get jumbled, but this is a person that I know things about. So I can be more apt to kind of hang on to it, and I've spent more time with it, right? I've spent more time, so I'm less likely to get. So one other thought that I would kind of throw out to you is this, you know, pace yourself as you're going through. We talked earlier about the assistant idea, bringing the assistant along and kind of helping with that. But I also encourage you just to pace yourself day of, pace yourself at the event. This is not a time to get into the whole, do you drink on the event or not? I'm not going to get into any of that. But I would definitely say that when you're doing these types of events, outside of your event, you should also maybe potentially limit your libations. Just because that's going to take some energy from you, right? I have some friends of mine, they get, they are part of a multi-op, and a lot of times after an event, they'll hit one of the bars and just kind of have a drink to just kind of chill from what happened that night. Great. That's great. But if you've got another event the next day, and now you're hanging out with your buddies for an extra hour or 2 or potentially 3, that's a lot less sleep you're getting and a lot more off your game than you should be. Not saying you can't get together with friends. Please don't take it that direction. I can see some people like, well, I'm going to get together with my friends.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm not telling you not to. I'm just saying, just be aware that, what you're sacrificing in one direction or what you're taking in one direction is going to sacrifice something in another direction. So that could be good. So I love Scott's idea. Oh, Scott, that is awesome. So Scott color codes the paperwork. So if he's doing 2 different, doing a Friday, Saturday, I don't know the colors, but let's say pink and green, right? One might be Friday might be printed on pink paper and Saturday might be printed on green. I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome because you also, you talked about grabbing the paperwork and being on the clipboard, and maybe you don't want to print on different color paper, but you use different colored clipboards, right? Like keeping something so that it stands out to you, that you don't accidentally grab the wrong one. And just, forget the date, right? Like you're like, oh, I grabbed Fridays, and then I'm looking at it and I don't realize it's Saturday's date, and I'm looking at it and I'm preparing and I'm all set, ready to go. And then I get there and go, that's Saturdays. Now, the great thing is, hopefully you have internet access and you can pull up your DJ event planner or whatever program you're using and get access to the online version. But in the moment, you're SOL.
Yeah.
So, oh, okay. So DJ Michael threw out this idea: create a draft crate to put sequential events until that day. So I'm assuming, like, I want a little more clarification, Michael, if you don't mind. I think I'm following that one. But then the other idea is, if you don't have an assistant, his suggestion is to tip out the busser to help you with loadout. Like if the venue's got somebody that is there, and hey, what can I do to help? Want to make $20? Help me carry a couple speakers to the car, right? I have a friend that's locally that does that. I always kind of felt weird because I'm like, well, I'm taking away from the venue. Yeah,
that's me. None of my venues are like that where I could tip somebody out like that, because they'd be like, he needs to do his own job. I'm like, I know. Okay.
Well, I think you have to kind of pick and choose. In the same respect, if it's somebody whose main job is done by that point, if you grab them early and just be like, hey, what time are you done? Oh, I'm done when we do last dance. I don't have to stay and clean up. All right, I'll tell you what, give me an extra 20 minutes and I'll throw $20 your way to help me carry some stuff to the car. All right. Who's, I shouldn't say who's going to turn down $20, but I mean, some of those instances, and I just use 20 as an example. You could be whatever you decide, but, so yeah. Okay. So DJ Michael is talking about, the draft crate, so you don't accidentally pull the wrong song. So getting all that lined up, like we were saying ahead of time, Monday, Tuesday, whatever. Once you've confirmed it, get all that stuff put in place way in advance. Good. Scott says you have to be coy about asking the busser. Yeah, if the venue just thinks they're holding the door for you, and just happens they got a speaker bag or a lighting bag in their hand, I guess it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I've not done that. I know people who do, and nobody seems to really have a problem with it because you're not manipulating for a long amount of time. You're just kind of helping, and the venue's kind of okay with it to a degree because it's also getting you out of there faster, right? Which is something they want so they could send their people home. So, yeah, I guess. I guess. All right. Anything else that you want to add? I think we've kind of, as far as I know, we've covered quite a bit. But if anybody else has any other ideas, by all means, throw them in the chat. Before we wrap up, we'll share them out. And if not, I do want to say if you're watching this afterwards, you can always drop comments on the videos. Sometimes I get them and see them. If not, usually John tells me about them. If I don't, so drop your comments in below and let us know your ideas, your tips. If we didn't hit on them, share them out. Right? It's all about making everybody better. But any last second thoughts about tips that you want to throw?
No, just book them all. Book them
Book
all.
them
Just
all.
do it. Book them all. Book them
5
all.
hours away from each other, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Just book them
just
all.
book them all. And then you'll learn.
10
You're
hours
like,
in
oh.
this direction, 3 hours in that direction from home base. Who cares?
If it hadn't happened before, I wouldn't have been. What would we look at now?
I'm sorry, say that again.
It happened once. That's why I'm like, you look now. I'm like, okay, where am I this night?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, we mainly talked about weddings tonight, but or kind of had that in the context in the back of our mind. But I will say this, like, and I kind of said Saturdays, or if it's not a Saturday, it doesn't happen for me. But Friday nights is when I get my school dances. A lot of our local schools will do that. And that's another type of energy that comes with the school dance. And so I'm doing that and then turn around on Saturday. And I know those are the times where I've really kind of been like just kind of from the performance side because of that. And the music for a school dance is not the same as a wedding,
Yeah.
in case you didn't know. It can take you in a different direction, but yeah. So all right. So a couple things coming up. Do you want to throw this out there? First off, 10 o'clock tonight is going to be hanging with Howie, DJNTV.com/chill. If I haven't thrown it in the chat. Oh, actually, somebody even already beat me to it. Probably Robin, because she's awesome like that. Yeah. So hanging with Howie is in the chill room. Again, the first 20 minutes ish. They're going to be talking about a topic. You just kind of hang out, camera off, listen to everything. And then when they're done, they say, okay, we're done with that part. Come on in, talk, have a good time, hang out, give a whole bunch of tips of your own, or just kind of talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. It's kind of a room and an opportunity for you. And then coming up tomorrow night at 10 o'clock will be another one. This is going to be the music show. And so it's going to be focused more just focused on the music side of that. But again, that will be at djntv.com/chill. I've got my video that will drop on Wednesday morning. John's got his that will drop tomorrow morning. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that's out there. So we are hooking you up with that content and getting you ready to go. On that note, we are going to say sayonara. You have yourself a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. For those of you in the US, be very careful. It's very hard to press buttons on your controller if you don't have fingers left from the fireworks. That's my tip for the night. Yeah. All right. Have yourself a good one. Bye, everybody.